Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the sensor harness, this bundle, this circuit board here. We're going to get this zip tied into a position so that we can set the length for the rest of it. So at the end of the sensor harness where the wires come out, there's a hard circuit board here. We want to zip tie this directly underneath the jack shaft, and if possible underneath the motor mount or underneath of a roll cage bar. That way we can help prevent the ignition noise from the coil from hitting it. So the first thing we're going to do is the jack shaft sensor. So as you can see, there's two split nuts there. We're going to take one of those off. I have already installed the jack shaft collar on here, so I'm not going to go through the process of taking my shaft off because it's already on here. But clearly ours is not using a split collar, so you do have to slide the shaft out, slide this in, space everything appropriately, space it so that the center of your collar is at the center of your tab for your jack shaft sensor. And then we are going to grab an 1/8" drill bit. I'll slide it through. I'm going to tighten it from this end. All right, so it's getting close. So I'm going to take the bit, the non-threaded, non-cutting side, and then I'm going to loosen this up and let it get to the point where we're at exactly 1/8 inch. So now that I've got my gap correct, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the alignment is correct. A lot of these tabs have got some adjustment here, so I'm going to get this as aligned as on top as I can, and then 1/2" wrench, get the rest of the way. Now this is a plastic threaded sensor, so do not over tighten this. Very gently, that thing is not going anywhere. Now that our drive shaft sensor is in place, and as you can see, we've got plenty of room to be able to move this motor plate forward or back. That's what we want to see. We want to get this in a position where it's got room for you to move things without having to take the sensor off, because that's just a pain. So next, because we've got plenty of room on this guy, we're going to do these next. Now we have these staggered so that if the labels end up rubbing off, if you stagger this end, it ends up working out just perfectly. I've already got them somewhat staggered here, so I know that the head temp is the further away one. So I can go ahead and plug that in. And then the exhaust right here.
If you have a PVL coil, which is going to be the long blue one with Briggs & Stratton written on the side, then we need to install the RPM pickup wire on the spark plug wire like this.
So what we have here is the clip that came with it. We've cut our wire so that it is just beyond, but room for the engine to move forward and back. So we want to now get this installed correctly. So the first thing we're going to do is grab our 2 wire ties, and we're going to go ahead and install this guy here. And we're not going to zip tie it too tight. We are just going to kind of keep it loose for the moment. Now what I want to do is, because this does have a clip for the spark plug, I can install this part loose here, which makes life a little easier. So I'll get this position so it's just right at the end of the clip. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten down on the zip tie. And now I can go ahead and clip this on to the spark plug wire. And when I clip this on, I want to clip it on a couple inches away from the actual spark plug. I want to be kind of in between the spark plug and the coil itself. So somewhere in this middle area, and you can kind of fine tune it a little bit by moving it around. But in general, we want to try to be avoiding the noise that's coming from the coil. So having an evac tank helps get a cleaner signal because it just blocks that ignition noise. And then by having the signal run up from this side, we allow the engine to block some of that ignition noise as well. So you end up with a much cleaner signal that way.
If you have the Magneto coil, which is the standard option and is the black smaller coil, then we need to install the spark plug sensor wire on the spark plug like this. So we're going to take our clip, set our clip on here. We're going to bring enough room so that we can go through this clip right here. And then we need enough room so that we can wrap around it 3 times. So we're going to 1, 2, 3. Now, We've got 3 loops underneath, that's what we want. So if there are 3 loops that you can feel underneath, that's the goal. We want 3 pieces of wire underneath. Now right now I've got this too long where this is gonna be hanging out the end. So I'm actually gonna shorten this just a little bit. So I'm gonna unroll this some, slide this in a little bit more. There's my second under, and there's my third under. And I can put this back into the clip right there. And pull it tight. And now that is installed.